Welcome to Your Next Best Step with Breck Cockrell, the locker room for purpose-driven leaders. This is where we slow down, reflect, and take our next best steps through real stories, practical strategies, and rooted leadership wisdom. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, even the best leaders need a coach in their corner.
Well, hey, welcome to your Next Best Step podcast. And today I've got a special guest in the locker room with us today. And he has been a part of my life for a long time. I know he still looks very young, but we've probably been connected at the hip in some kind of way for about 20 years or so. But welcome to the locker room, Joshua Dean, to the house, and glad that you're here, man. And thanks for showing up and hanging out. Joshua Dean is, I'm going to let him kind of give a kind of his title, kind of what his role is. But Joshua's living in the northern suburb of Atlanta in Canton, Georgia. And here's a little shout out. If you ever get to Canton, you need to go to Cantina on Main Street. Some of the best Mexican food you'll find. Mm-hmm. But Joshua, man, welcome to the show.
Well, man, thanks for having me. I don't know if I can't get rid of you or you can't get rid of me. So I don't know what
a little of both, man.
What that is, how we find ourselves here. But yeah, glad to be here. And I will say this: I think the reason you come and hang out with me is because we pretty much just post up at La Cantina on Main. So Freddie and crew are fantastic. It's a great staple in the Canton area. So you do yourself right by swinging in there, man. We do a good job putting some work in, don't we?
Man, that's the truth, man. Freddie and those guys do a great job, man. This is really cool. This is episode 3. You're my second guest on the podcast, and I'm still kind of learning my way in this podcast world, and every week just trying to take one next best step in the delivery of it. And I'm here right now in the locker room, as I've shared. I mean, it's literally we're in Buffalo, and it is my locker room by day. It's my cigar lounge at night, and when the grandkids are over, it's Pop's Clubhouse, which they were just over Sunday morning, and we always have a good time. But here we are, man. It is a beautiful afternoon here in Buffalo. It's a little on the crisp side. It's probably 68 degrees, sunny. Probably feels a lot like Atlanta right now.
Yeah, it feels good in Atlanta here for sure, man. The weather's nice. So yeah, I'm glad to be a part of what you're doing. It's funny, we've said that a long time. You said that for a long time. I should say the next best step. We've leveraged that and used that in so many different ways. Whether we've been in ministry together, serving that capacity, now as different business leaders. Even for me, as I run a mortgage business, I'm trying to help people take their next best step in their family journey and their mortgage journey, and trying to go accomplish. We know the vehicle of a home is the best asset, the best contributor for people's long-term wealth. And so I'm in that season now. We've been in Atlanta, I don't know, almost 10 years, 9.5 years. For those who don't know, I'm a husband of one, Miss Tina Michelle, almost 21 years in October. Pray for her. She's still hanging around. And we got 3 beautiful kids. We're in a new season. I have officially a teenager. I have a 13-year-old Judah, a 12-year-old Grantley, and Gracie girl here in just about a week. On September 1st will be 9. So I don't know about that comment earlier about being young. Maybe the camera's helping me, but there's a lot of gray hair and a lot of things we're trying to navigate as I run a business and also lead my family. So
yeah. So you're with what's the name of the company that you're with?
Homeowners Financial Group. So, I've been in the mortgage business now about 7.5 years. I've been here for about 5+ years and got connected like many times in my life where you've played such a significant role, not on my life, but so many others. I met Eric Zier, who's been a leader in the industry for a long time. Most people know him for being he's a Hall of Fame quarterback at the University of Georgia, played in the pros, and really an incredible man. I just golfed with him yesterday, and people just love him, and he's so humble. He's like, and he can't walk hardly, the poor guy. He barely walk, and he looks like he's been through 17 train wrecks, but he's a great human. And so I got connected with him many, many years ago, and that's been really really kind of the onboarding for me here at Homeowners Financial Group. So in 5 short years, we've grown a really incredible business of close to 50 million. Last year served 124 families for about $47 million, which is just a lot of people's stories that we capture, and then been able to be in a leadership role as a producing branch manager. So I help serve and lift up 8 other loan professionals in their career and what they're trying to go accomplish. And then really probably what I've been so excited about and where you've been so impactful is beginning this year, early in the beginning of the year, I got the opportunity to be the national business development, the national coach for the organization. So that's been an undertaking and been really exciting. So we have about 110, 112 loan officers nationally. And so alongside Eric, I get a voice into speaking to that and having an impact. So it's been really a lot of things to do, man. Lots of fun, impacting a lot of different people and growing in the process.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. You asked me to step in and to do some coaching with you about this time last year, a little bit further into the fall. And it's been interesting to get to know a little bit of the mortgage loan world, the real estate world, and all of that. And what's kind of interesting, the more I get into coaching, I just had a meeting with a dentist, and I'm in the dentist world, I'm in the mortgage loan world, I'm in higher ed world, I'm in restaurant, coaching a lobster shack, and this is what I know. It doesn't matter what the shell looks like. Everything we do is about people. And
100%.
we're in the people business and the people development business. And so, man, Joshua, one of the things I always love and appreciated about you is that from the first time we connected and the first time we met, and you asked for some insight, a little guideline. This is what I've always known about you. When there's not there's never very much time between a suggestion or hey, why don't you do this, and action. And I think that's one of the reasons why you have been so successful, really, in so many different contexts, whether it was in ministry and helping me and the team up here in Buffalo, or whether it's down there, or even, didn't matter where you've been. I've always known that you are a person of action. You're a person of growth. And man, I so appreciate that about you. What was one of the things, you were last year, you kind of reached out to me about this coaching, and what were a couple of things that caused you to really believe like, hey, I need to invest in getting some coaching in a kind of specific area of your life? What was some of the motivations on that?
Yeah, well, man, I appreciate you saying those things about me. I'm always trying to grow and be better. I think for me, I mean, I've learned this from you, and we all have blind spots, right? We all have areas that we fall short in, and being a former athlete, I certainly don't move very well laterally anymore. So being a former athlete, coaching's always just been something that I've done well in. I've always wanted to go win, and I've always had a mindset of, chasing things and becoming something and bringing value and having value in some of those ways. So I think for me, where it made sense for you and I was in that leadership role for the branch in last year when we, basically I think it was around October, November, but knew that there was other things on the horizon. And so, I've not been in the business long, and I just know there's areas that I have to get better at. And I think too, to steward the others well, right? When people are trusting me, the organization, my owner, and then there's other people I'm serving with. So I wanted to make sure I was filling my cup as much as I can. And I just think that, coaching is so paramount. I mean, you and I've had this conversation. You look at, if you want to talk about sports, you look at, there's a pretty decent quarterback that plays at Buffalo, and number 17, and he's the MVP. And I promise you, he has a trainer and he has a coach. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, so many greats that we could go down and name on the athletic side. And we know that they have coaches. So for me, one, it was our relationship. I think there's some fear and some apprehension when you're reaching out for coaching. Sometimes it's financial. Sometimes, well, what if I don't get what if we don't connect? And so certainly for me, knowing you all these years and seeing what you've done and the impact you've had, it was a natural fit for me. But also, you've always been a learner. You're a reader. You're a grower, right? And so I want to be connected to other like-minded people that you're stretching, as you just said a few moments ago. I mean, here, think about this. You've been in the coaching world, a basketball coach in the ministry world for a long, long time, and now you're having to learn the lingo of the mortgage world. And now you're meeting with the dentist, and you're in the Edward. You got all these different people, but you show up and you do that. So I needed somebody that could help me go further, faster, right? We've said that before. Give me some blind spots, and you just want to be able to steward this time really well. And I just want to get better. I want to be great at what I'm going to do, and I want that to matter. I want it to matter. So,
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I want to do in this podcast is I really, my focus is leaders and those who are, first of all, leading themselves, trying to help, as we all are, in progress, working, it's never perfection. It's always a process. But those also leaders who are leading others. And I just know that sometimes we can get stuck. And sometimes we get stuck based upon something that we've done. Sometimes there's areas where we get stuck and it's not something specific to what we've done, but maybe it's the context that we're in. And then sometimes, we're doing okay, but we feel like, it's okay, but I think it could be really good. And then sometimes you're kind of in this area where things are cooking pretty good, but you feel like one or two things are missing to really be able to optimize your fullest potential. And so I think kind of if we look at all of our kind of in the things that we're responsible for leading businesses, I think we can always kind of find areas that were in one of those kind of three areas. And so, when we first got together, I remember us sitting down and asking the question, and I typically ask it of everybody new that I'm working with. And so I can get to know you at a deeper level, as I just simply said, hey, what are your three values? What are your three main values that no matter where you are or who you're in front of, this is how you are operating? Because I really believe that as leaders, we have to be grounded, right? We have to be like, we can't just wing it. And so I remember us having that conversation there in your office, and you kind of pausing, and I know you. I mean, I've seen what you do, all of just your messaging. It's always really good, but there was a little bit of a pause. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, it kind of threw me off. It's funny. I take a lot of pride in being buttoned up and having systems and process. That's what has allowed me to go where I'm at is repeatable systems and processes that ultimately get to the desired outcome, which is we want to exist to create experience that matters. We believe the mortgage experience and how we impact people can be different, and so it's very intentional. So when you asked me that question, I was really, to be frank, I was really embarrassed because as somebody who takes a lot of pride in being buttoned up, and I've had coaching. I've had another great coach that's been really specific in the mortgage space. Brad Roach has been remarkable for me. And so not that we didn't talk through some of those things, but a lot of it was more about the systems and the processes and the functionality of running a mortgage business and really getting into, the craft, if you will, of doing that, what that means. So it really was, it was kind of embarrassing. I remember feeling like, I remember we're sitting in the office and you got your, you get the marker out and you go right. I don't know, I had like 19 of them, right? You're like, can you three? And so it was really reflective for me to pause and do that because, it's not that it has to be 3 or 1 or 2, but I wanted to make sure that I had clarity around that. And I think what you just said, being a leader and being foundational is so important, because our job is to go help other people realize their thing or pull things out of them. And it's hard. Here I am, going to meet with agents, and I really couldn't like share my 3 values in a very clear, crisp, tangible way. And so even after you and I met, we worked through those 3 things. It's fantastic to have them. And I went on a crusade, if you will, of just stealing your stuff, being able to go share my values with the agents, and then be able to bring value to them, going, hey, have you thought about that? And I work with a lot of top professionals, and similar to me, some were like, you know what? We just get stuck, right? Integrity and character and this and that. And it's not that any of them are bad or wrong. It's just, what does it mean to me? And so you helped me realize that, trustworthiness is a huge value to me in business and in life. And so, that's what I loved about it too, because they cross over. Sometimes we think it's got to be, and we're not transactional driven, we're relational driven. And so that helped me kind of phrase that in a way. And then we just have a relentless pursuit of excellence. We want to be I'm committed to being excellent. So it was so freeing. Yeah. So if you don't know your values, somebody should reach out. If you can't articulate your 3 values, and that's why coaching, Breck, is so great, because we're all constantly learning, man. And so even if you're really buttoned up and you're having a lot of success, there's still so many areas of our life that we can go scratch at something and go, I've never really written those down. I probably should do that.
Well, and you and I both like when we were working together, I mean, we worked hard on, the stated mission of the church, and what's our mission and what's our vision and all of that. And for folks no matter what context you're in, business world or whatever that is, everybody, I mean, I've not met any, like there's everybody has a mission statement. Sure. Everybody has like, these are our values, but they're about the work. And what I've realized personally, and then also as I meet with leaders, when I ask them, I said, hey, what's your values for the business and your company? And man, they can rattle that off pretty quick. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's fascinating. So what are your values? And I think it's really important, because we want to live by intentionality, right? We always say it's not our intentions, but our intentionality that leads us to our preferred destination, right?
Sure.
And so when we think about these values, so even as parents, as friends, as coworkers, or whatever that is, and I often tell folks, I said, we are the CEO of ourselves. Like first and foremost, we work for ourselves. And it wouldn't make any sense if you're working for a company and you don't have a mission, you don't have values, then how much more even when we're working for ourselves? Like, hey, this is who I am. So we did that. And so it's kind of interesting, because we've had a lot of conversations since then. What did that do for you? Like, has that, having those top of mind, those values, like, how has that helped you bring clarity in your leading and how you lead and interact with new clients and looking for, realtors and homes? How has that changed your process thinking?
Well, I think it's giving me clarity. It's just giving me something to really, like you just said, to be very intentional around, right? So like even in our business, in any business, right, there's clients that are ideal, there's partners that are ideal, and there's partners that are not ideal. Our clients, I mean, that's not throwing shade at anybody. It's that, we're not designed to work with everybody. So by having values, if I have a possible client or a realtor that is so transactional driven, well, then my value calls me to be mindful of that. So I can say no to something, right? We always think of sometimes our values being something that we're saying no to something bad or something we shouldn't do. And of course, there's value in that, and there's wisdom in that, but also having your values going, hey, I'm not transactional focused, I'm relational focused. So as I'm meeting with a client or a potential partner, that's important to me. So for one, it helps me establish those boundaries, if you will, or even those guidelines. Like, hey, if your main focus and all good is just to be transactional, it's next one, next one, next one, fantastic for you. That's not something I value. So it empowers me to go lead in the way, whether it be my leadership relationships with other LOs or with my agents. It sets the tone. The other thing I think by having, where I've seen the benefit of this in my business, is that by me showing up and having my values, asking other people their values and then giving them some space. I think I told you this multiple times. I went on this when you and I were doing this. I think I met face to face with 30 agents, right? I do kind of this towards the end of the year. I get belly to belly. We celebrate the wins. We look at what's on the horizon. We pray through what's coming. And I'm always trying to bring something fresh. And so when you and I were in this season, it was great. And some of the people, their faces like, what do you mean, Rob? And I would tell the story like, hey, I'm with my coach and he asked me and I thought I knew and I didn't. And it was embarrassing, but I had to figure it out. And I'm paying for that. You're not even having to pay. I'm buying coffee, right? So it's but it's good because it lets me know what their values are, right? So we can just assume that we think because so and so's in the business that they have similar values. And I think in our business, especially, and I think this is probably true of a lot of sales jobs, but specifically in what we do, the word partnership gets kind of thrown around a lot, or even the phrase like-mindedness. And I don't know if it always. I think it's kind of, we've watered that down because I don't know if we always get to the belly or the foundation like of what does that mean for you and what are your values. So I could go on, but that was really paramount for me in setting that. And even about, relentless pursuit of excellence. I want to be in business. I want to work with people. I want to be surrounded by people that have a value and appreciation for excellence. You may not have to have the same value that I have, but I like that you do have that value versus somebody who's just trying to fly by the seat of their pants or really not try to go do that. That may not be the right fit for me.
Yeah.
And so it just helps you it just gives you confidence to go and have a conversation. I mean, that is, when you talk about going to have meaningful, impactful conversations, you talk about being curious.
Yeah.
If you can show up and have those things, just those things, and you feel comfortable to go communicate those, it really opens up, I'd say, the conversations I had. I'm going to do it again this year. I think his values can change, right?
Yeah.
Like seasons of life change, the perspective of things change. Not that the core values shift a lot, but maybe, you might have more of an intentional thing for 2026. I'm not talking about a New Year's resolution, but maybe like, hey, I'm going to really focus more on this year. So I just think it allows you to have really meaningful, some of the best, most meaningful conversations I had were centered around, hey, would you mind if I share my values with you?
Yeah.
And then going, hey, what are yours?
Right.
I never thought about that. Right.
Well, and often sometimes we have a tendency to just kind of wing it, like in the power of purposefully thinking, having top of mind. I've got a little board here that I look at, and it's got my 5 on there. It's got my values, because I have to remember that stuff. Like I have to remind, like one of my top 3 values is being radically curious, like staying curious. And so I try to help leaders stay curious, right? Because I think when we sit in a seat of leadership, the longer we can stay curious versus always certain about things, then the more intel we get, the more like, okay, what else and what else? And you're working with your clients, like being curious, like how else can I help serve you? And so I think it's really important that we have, whether you're 25 or old like me, I think the value of values is highly important. So a couple other things, Josh, I know that we've talked a little bit about it, but what's one or two other areas that that has just kind of we've talked about, we've kind of stepped into, that allowed you to kind of grow and to think and to pause and to be more curious about, I need to think more about that, and help you in just taking your next best steps in your coaching and leading?
Well, naturally, when you start off our time together, man, we're in the people business, and so any way we can get better deal with people. So you've helped me even learn how to be more intentional, be more specific. And again, back to being curious, asking better questions, and showing up for things that really help your people you're serving. And I'm talking about here in the moment more around the leadership side. I'm not talking about clients, so to speak.
Yeah.
There is some crossover in some of this in the different buckets that I kind of operated. But I think for me, it was navigating better, on my team, how to lead my team better, how to have better conversations, meetings, asking things around that. A lot of times as leaders, we assign tasks and we delegate, and there's something to be said about delegation and those things, but ultimately too, getting curious around, is that their sweet spot? Even looking at some of the things around what their gift set is, right? Do I have the right people on the bus in the right position to make sure that how I get stoked and excited. One of my favorite quotes, and it's in a book, says your gift will make room for you. And I want to make sure that I'm putting people in positions that their gift makes room for them. Like my gift has made room for me and people have given me opportunities. I want to go help others refine that. So some of that's not just to serve me, but it's ultimately to make sure that they're using their gift in the way that they've been designed and created to do something, that they're loving what they do, they're having fun. And listen, we all know there's parts of our roles and jobs that are not always the most fun
Yeah.
part, but as we've talked about, can you work in the sweet spot? How much do I get to work in that sweet spot? So really helping people do that. So I've had to manage some challenging things from a brand standpoint, but even more importantly, from my team standpoint, navigating, people, having to let somebody go and navigating those things. Those things are challenging, when you have to go get into that. What does that look like? And ultimately, are you helping them, not because it's not what's best for me, but maybe it's best for we, like, hey, maybe it's time for us to move on. Maybe there's something better for them elsewhere. And those are hard decisions. I see so often as leaders, people get mad when people leave to take other opportunities, which I think is just so hypocritical as leaders. Like if an opportunity presents itself, helping somebody else go do that, even at times it doesn't benefit me, is really the hardest thing to help others take their next best step, right? So that's been really informative and helpful. I think real quick too, I'll say just around, like, you've helped me a lot around framework stuff. We're tackling these larger roles and trying to get clear messaging, get clear strategy. You don't realize, I didn't realize how much time it takes and the nuance of those things to go be able to create a compelling vision, a compelling why, right? How do we help people get excited about this, and what's a clear path we're going? So you've helped me create a lot of framework, whether it be doing some group coaching that I've been doing a lot. Like I do one-on-one coaching. There's been great help there, but also I think there's been some value in group coaching and bringing like-minded people together and leveraging the room. I think sometimes as leaders, we think we have to have all the answers or we have to do all that. I think, I've found that it's fun to facilitate, right? And allow others to go, somebody ask a question, to have someone else go, hey, I was just navigating, I just had this is how I dealt with this. And it's letting other people win.
Yeah.
Too, right? So they're sharing wins, they're getting wins, they're feeling connected, they're feeling seen and appreciated. So there's a bunch of stuff I could share, but those have been some meaningful things that stick out off the top of my head. And I've been doing a lot of group coaching since then, and our people love it. And we pull up one-on-one, but they love the group coaching that we do Thursday. I was kicked off a mastermind to change it up, get a new flow. And it's been really helpful. We do that. I love that little hot seat, right? We do a little hot seat that gets people firing some questions and giving some people to work through some challenging things. It's created some really good, true transparency, I think, and some really trustworthiness around it, and just vulnerability, I guess, is probably maybe a better word. So that's been really cool. So a lot of fun. Not a lot of stuff that you often see or do in the mortgage business, which has been the element that you've been able to bring in from a different perspective that I wouldn't have, and that many don't, because either they don't get coaching or it's just not how it's always been done, right?
But mostly from how I'm learning, it's mostly a transactional business.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And that's why we tethered back to what is going to be the differentiator? What's going to be difference for the Dean team versus all the other mortgage loan, folks that you could partner with? And it's we are relational driven. That's one of the values. We're not going to be transactional in our approach. And I think one of the things I remember early on, we talked about just some dynamics on your team. And so you told me about some areas of maybe some frustration with some teammates, some team members on there and stuff. And so one of the things I said, well, and Dr. John Townsend, he who I did a lot of work under in my master's program. He used to always say, he said, there's always drama in the fruit tree, like in the leaves, the fruit, the branches. There's always drama. And he says, when I'm working with leaders and they've got their teams, I'll listen to the drama for a little bit, and then I'll bring it back to the root. And then I always ask, well, what have you done to cause this? Right? Like, oh
Sure.
my gosh, it's so good. Like, we can get frustrated as leaders, but then we have to also go, okay, well, what have I done or not done to help them be successful? And before we're able to really hone in on what's going on with them, we have to first look at what's going on with us. And I think one of the things that we talked about was just clarity. Like, how clear have you been about expectations? How clear have you
Sure.
been about accountability? Have you held them accountable for the expectations? Have you given them a clear win? How are they winning? And then are you getting feedback along that line? I was literally I was talking to a leader today, and we were and there's a little frustration on the team, and he was saying, hey, he said, I said, well, what's keeping you from like really addressing that? He says, well, I guess I'm just too kind. And I'm like, that's interesting that you say that, because I believe that clarity is kindness.
Mm,
So if we really want to be kind as leaders, we have to give those that we're leading real clarity in what they should be doing, their why, their what, their how, having accountability. So, and we kind of laughed. So I said, in essence, you aren't really too kind,
right.
right? You just didn't want to deal with it. And so he said, yes, I didn't want to deal with it. I said, well, I said, that's the way most of us, I mean, like I've done that before. I understand that. But that area of clarity that you've gotten, Josh, I know that we've talked through some of that stuff, and just that gift of that, and helping your team in the just in this area of clarity.
Well, you had said too, just to add to that real quick. I remember you had made a comment during that, and it kind of falls like what we create is ultimately what we allow,
Mm.
right? And if you take that sober, like you're like, wow, like ultimately, oftentimes we're frustrated with the process of something or someone,
Yeah.
right? But we ultimately created that and then we allow that. So I had to really do, and I'm constantly doing that, right? You have to constantly go back and look at, man, what I've created. And there's a lot of wins in that, but ultimately it ultimately creates what a line. This is at home, this is with your kids. It's
Yeah.
that leadership, that's a leadership tagline. It sounds fun, but it really, if you sit back and think about it, what you create, you allow, or you're accountable for. So sometimes as leaders, we'll hold others in a position of responsibility, and certainly there's some ownership there, but ultimately if you're the one that created that system, they're operating that, and then like you're talking about, there's that clarity which doesn't lead to kindness in that sense. So we end up having times, and it just everything falls on the on the backs of leaders. And it's funny, everybody wants to be a leader until it's time to lead, right? Everyone wants the title. I mean, you've always stuck that with me. Titles, we're just so driven by titles. And I love one thing I love, David Caramitro is our regional manager, and even Eric, and our owner, is just the most like, and these guys just don't care about titles. And it's so nice to be around people like we just get shit done, right? We want to go have an impact, make a difference, and we don't care what the title is. And what I think you learn as you get older, I'm not quite as old as you, but I'm a little bit older than I was. And is that we often think as young guys, especially this is so for men, that we have to have a title, and the title's the thing that now I can go. No, leaders lead, right? leaders create wakes, they create impact. Where they go, you go. And so I think oftentimes we're waiting for somebody to kind of designate some sort of title to us, and then that all of a sudden allows me to step into it versus going, no, man, I'm going to grow where I'm planted. I've been called to lead exactly what it is. And if a title comes at some point, but leaders lead. And so I think that's it's been refreshing to be in my organization. It's been refreshing for your input into those things as well. And that's been something you've been saying for years, is like, titles don't really mean anything, Joshua. We get them, we understand there's an org chart, but at the end of the day, the leadership role that you take on and how you handle that is what's ultimately the most valuable and most important.
Yeah. Well, man, I know we could talk forever on leadership. It's one of the things that you and I both value. We love it. I geek out on it a little bit, but it is hard. I think this is, so often entrepreneurs that are out there listening, business, most people don't get into what they're doing to lead. Entrepreneurs, they have a business they want to create. Maybe, if you're a dentist, you're a doctor, you want to help people, but so often we get in those positions and then all of a sudden we're in positions of leadership and we don't really know how to lead so well.
Sure.
We know how to do really specific tactical things, but now I'm leading people. And so often it is leading of people that causes the drain and the doubt that takes away from the dream. And so one of the frameworks that you and I have talked about, what's your dream, right? As a leader, as a boss, there's several different dreams. What do you dream about for your team? What do you dream about for your business, for your clients? And then the second one is, what's a drain? What is draining you from being able to optimize and to actually see that dream come to truth? And then the last thing is D, is a doubt, which is basically, man, this drain, and now you're doubting yourself. Can I ever accomplish this dream? Can we ever create a culture for the people who work here, or can we ever really? And so those three frameworks, those three things, the dream, the drain, and the doubt, helps us to be able to compartmentalize and think about, okay, if I think about that and I understand what the drain is that's causing me the doubt, then what are the next steps to help me be able to stop that drain? What do we need to do? And so, I think those are the things that we find in leadership, different ways that helps us just take that next best step. Hey, man, and just kind of wrapping up, I so appreciate you coming on and joining me today here in the locker room. I always like to do a little bonus round here, a little fun time. So I'm just going to throw a couple of things out here to you. What's something you used to believe about leadership that you no longer believe now?
It's easy. Everybody wants to do it. It's something I think even it's something you chase versus something that finds you.
Hmm.
I do think there's natural leaders. I think we go work on our craft and become better leaders, of course. But I think there's something about just if you're designed that way, leadership will find you, and then what kind of leader you become determines on what kind of work you put in. So I would say it's not all glamorous, my brother.
Yeah. What's one thing you're still trying to figure out?
Oh man, that's a great question. What's one thing I'm still trying to figure out? Man, just to continue to I don't know if I would say that's trying to figure. I just say just continue to stay humble and just continue to have a teachable spirit, being willing to learn. I just think that's just, I think that's I don't know if I'm trying to figure that out so much to answer the question, but I just think that that's so important to grow. And I know for me, if I continue to do those things, it allows me to go have a much bigger impact and really go do what I've been called to do. So I would say just having that humility and that teachable spirit is just something you're trying to continue to stay locked in on.
What would be your leadership walk-up song? as you're walking up to the stage, walking into your office? What's your walk-up song?
Oh man, there's so many good songs. It's funny. There's a song I like. KB and Swoop are a couple artists I listen to quite regularly. They got a song called "Another Win," and I think it'd be an awesome walk up song. You got to check it out when you get a chance.
Yeah.
So it's "Another Win." It's a cool song for sure.
Love that. Well, hey, listen, here's the final thing. What would you say to someone who feels maybe stuck or uncertain in their leadership role? What would be a like a really good next step for them to consider?
Man, I would say, and listen, this is going to plug you a little bit, but it's going to plug coaching. Find somebody outside
Hmm.
of your circumstance that can give you an objective view of where you find yourself.
Hmm.
Because we're often stuck again because of us, because of things we can't see. Maybe it's positions we've got ourselves into. So I think having an outside perspective that cares and loves you too, right? I think that's important to say, right? That wants what's best for you, but having an outside perspective. That's why, again, Breck, I'm so grateful for you, man. And for so many years, you continue to give me a perspective that I don't get to see. I was laughing because we were at church on Sunday and the guy's talking about it, and he comes up with the question that you've been saying for years: what's it like to be on the other side of you, right? And I always laugh. I still remember the first time because I'm just dumb. I remember the first time he said, "I'm like, I think it's great. Why would you? What do you mean? I'm exciting. I'm lively. I'm energetic. Why would you want to be on the other side of
Yeah.
me, right? Why?" And you step back, you're like, "Oh, what do people experience when they what do they experience? When they experience you, Joshua?" And I'm like, "Well, gosh, I think it's a great experience, but maybe not everybody feels that way." And so I think to that point, you help fill in the gap with that on what does it feel like to be on the other side of Joshua.
Hmm.
And when somebody loves you and cares you enough, they tell you the hard things that we don't really want to hear, but we so desperately need if we're going to be the leaders and husbands and fathers that we've been called to be, right? So I think getting that outside perspective, have somebody that's willing to tell you that, hey, your breath stinks. And you gotta figure that out, man. Like we gotta work through that, right? Somebody that's willing to love you enough, that's willing to tell you things that are hard. And then again, going back to a teachable, humble spirit, like, oof,
Yeah.
I'm paying for this shit. I'm paying for this and I'm getting told these things. This is crazy, man. So I think I just can't advocate enough for what you do in my life and so many others. And I think coaching in general, just having an outside voice that's willing to be objective, willing to love on you, willing to challenge you, so you can go be what you've been designed to be, man. That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Man, that's so good. Well, hey, JD, man, thank you for showing up, being just spend a little time this afternoon. And I look forward to our continued working together and relationships. But hey, thanks everybody for joining your Next Best Step podcast. Tell somebody about it. Give us a thumbs up and share the love. And until next time, have a great week. And man, I hope you can take your next best step in whatever it is that you're trying to figure out.